What's going on, everybody? LK here. In anime, right? Like in shonen anime, there's always like a moment in the tournament arc or in some big fight where at a crucial moment, the important character in the fight reveals their trump card and flips the situation. And fighting games are no different. Since fighting games are anime, like we enter tournaments, we fight against each other at majors, we try to show who's the best. There are examples of this as well. And I was thinking about this the other day. Like, once upon a time, probably like one of the most famous examples of this in any fighting game is from Street Fighter, and it's called the VIA CC. Sometime in 1990X, Alex Vi found some secret technique in Street Fighter that he used against John Choi, and John Choi figured out what it was during the match and used it against him. It's actually kind of a sick story. By the way, so this type of thing, while it's hype, it's not really accepted. Like, it's not, people don't like it when you hide information. Fighting games are an information war after all. Even players who describe themselves as, let's say, more instinctual, just kind of go with the flow, from playing a lot of matches, they do accumulate a lot of information and keep it on the inside. You know, they understand it internally. Maybe they can't explain it to you, but they can act on what they know in the moment. So generally this thing, and colloquially we call it, I want to say the acronym is STSFN. There you go. That's for YouTube. That's save that shit for national. So people don't actually like when you hide stuff. So me personally, I do like trying to share information so that everybody grows. And the games I play, you do need a lot of info to be able to endure all the very super strong tactics that characters have. However, it does help to have an edge in tournaments, especially for big tournaments. So again, I'm going to share with you three times that, maybe four actually, three times that I have saved something for a big tournament. The year here is 2011. Probably not what you're expecting to see to lead off, but it is BlazBlue, the first BlazBlue Evo, and the winners finals is me versus Tokido, which you would not expect this, but at the time, there was, it was easier to play multiple fighting games in the past, I want to say, and Tokido, as many of you know, is also a multi-fighting game specialist. So this was a kind of unique situation where this patch was only out for a couple months. It's kind of like the first Strive Evo, where the game was only out for like 2-3 months. I played a pretty technical character, Lychee, who I've talked about in a previous video in the previous version, who was really, really strong. But this was this version of Lychee was probably my first time experiencing the BS top tier got nerfed. You, the player, are fucked because you were super carried by your character, right? So I really had no time. Like, it was crunch time. A lot of characters were like similar, and on top of that, there were characters that I was not really a fan of that got stronger, like Noelle. So Noelle, that Tokido is playing, Tokido plays the cheap stuff. So she got buffed. This is probably her best version ever. She was never ever this good ever again, because do I want to say it? People who play this game hate Noelle? I think I'm allowed to say it. I think I'm allowed to say it. Because of that, I needed a two-prong approach. So I was grinding out of my mind. I was playing like 6 hours a day online. I used to stay up until like 3 a.m. so I could sneak in the Japanese lobbies and like watch Japanese Lychee players, see what they were doing, because they had the version longer than us, like quite a bit longer than us, to see like I can implement into my own game. And then on top of that, I was like, I think I need to try to come up with stuff that either people thought got taken out or people don't know that she could do. I think that's the only way I could have a really good run at Evo. Out of everything, the biggest thing that really helped me in the run is a very, very powerful mix-up that you just need to know about it. Like, if you don't know, it's gonna hit you. That's the best type of mix-up in the world. So despite me using a lot of tricks in this tournament, like a lot of stuff that people didn't really know, also there's no rollback. So if you don't play me, if you're not like from East Coast, there's no way you would know. There's this technique here where you're gonna see I steal the corner. So there's two really surprising things about this. So the first thing is, it was a kind of known technique from the previous version, but people were kind of like, it's not really a thing anymore. But the more surprising thing is that I saved it. This was the first time I did it all day, and Tokido blocked it. And I was like, what? Like, I was like shocked. So I saved it for this tournament. Like, I actually remember playing somebody online, and I was just trying it on people, and I told the guy like, you can't tell anybody about what I did to you. And he's like, what do you mean? I don't even know what's going on. I'm like, good. Like that type of thing. So just to save it for the big show, and then the person was ready, and he was like, yeah, apparently somebody in Japan online did it the exact same way that I did it to him, and that's why he was able to block it. Like, he recognized the setup, and I was like, damn, bro. Whoops. For number 2, we have to jump forward a couple of years. So this is the last Persona 4 vanilla tournament at Evo. This is a side tournament where I'm again winners finals against Breaker Dave, and the thing I saved is right there. So one thing I personally like are mix-ups that make the opponent look really dumb. Not gonna lie. So this is not really a mix-up. This is a solution to a problem. So if you're playing Ultimax right now, you're probably familiar with, like, they've nerfed Teddy's DP over time. Every character in Persona has a unique reversal. Some have more traditional ones, like Mitsuru and Narukami. They have what we call like Shoryu, where they leap forward with their whatever weapon and slash you. Other characters have counters. The Velvet Room Sisters have grabs, unfortunately. But in the original Persona 4 Arena, Teddy's reversal was incredibly hard to deal with, especially if your character had good mix-up, because if he activated it, he would teleport to the other side of the screen. If he hits you, he would put rage on you, which means you can't block, but you do a little bit more damage. It doesn't really do damage, but it's just an annoying situation, and a lot of characters had really strong knockdown games, and Teddy was really good at getting out of that, and even if you activated it, he was still invincible at the end. I personally have like a tendency of, sometimes it's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing in that sometimes I find solutions to things that I think other people don't. But it's a bad thing that sometimes I spend way too much time on one thing. I like hyper focus on like one annoying thing, or like trying to figure out one thing. So I'm like, man, like if I figure out a way to do this, it would be really good. And one of them was Teddy's DP. I was like, if there's a way for me to get him to stop mashing on DP on my Oki without like having to bait it, kind of like on some bike and strive energy, right? Then it would help out a lot in the matchup. And eventually I found a way. So in Persona, there is a lot of unique status effects like the RPG, but there's one that was especially powerful for a long time that's called Spin State. So that's what you're seeing here. Oh, wrong. So there's one that's especially powerful for a long time. That's not really a status effect in an RPG, but it was one that really affected the game a lot for a long time. It's called Spin State. And it's called Spin State because, well, you kind of are like spinny, spinny, spinny. So the thing about this state is in vanilla Persona, all you could do is block or get hit. They have long since, I don't know the exact patch in Ultimax where they changed this, but they have long since changed that and a couple of other really annoying status effects in the game. For example, Teddy's all-out attack, when he hits you, your character goes spinning, because, I mean, it's spin state. But Mitsuru, her JD actually has a spin state on it. It's just instant. You can't really see it. So here what you see is I do the super, and I follow up, and it just goes, resets the combo, basically, right? But in this version, yeah, so if I do this, and I just kind of get hit, you'll see the combo counter reset, just like that. So I'm gonna hold back, I'm gonna mash on roll here, and I just kind of just end up blocking, and then my next thing happens. Is because the game allows you to actually like input other stuff in this state now. But in the wonderful world of vanilla Persona 4 Arena, when this was super strong, if you literally do anything that's not blocking or getting hit, you will just get hit. It does not matter what you're doing at all. It really, really doesn't matter. So if your concern is getting the DP to come out, which of course Teddy wants to do, he's not trying to block, and he gets to go back to mid-screen, this essentially sets up a guaranteed reset. The only way you can escape this is by choosing to block. So I basically get this round just from doing this, and of course on my way up while I was playing other Teddys, I was also getting essentially free rounds just from setting that up, because Mitsuru does so much damage for doing full combos, you can't really take a lot of hits from her. And the last one, funny enough, is for Guilty Gear Strive. So like I mentioned at the beginning, when Guilty Gear Strive dropped, there was only a couple of months between the game's release and Evo. And if you were grinding the game, there was like a second beta that was right before the release, and the second beta went through the release. As far as types of games that show up at Evo, there's 4 types. And I'm not talking about like platform fighters, anime fighters, team fighters, no. What I'm talking about is how much time you have to get ready. So there's a certain type of game where it comes out in like, let's say September, October, and there's very little or no patching from the game's release until the next year's Evo. Personally, these are maybe my favorite or like second favorite types of Evos because the play level is usually pretty high because the players have plenty of time to play the game, figure out stuff, lots of counterplay gets found, stuff like that. Then you have games that are repeating. So the more years, especially if the game is not patched, the more time goes on with that game, again, the level plays really high. I really like these two. Games like Marvel vs. Capcom 3 kind of fall into this. And then sometimes the games that like the game or patch drops early in the year, like let's say like a January, February, maybe at latest March 1st or so, and they're at Evo. So these are usually pretty good. Like there's still not quite enough time for a patch for your typical fighting game, but it is enough time that people have found some pretty good stuff. Maybe not totally flushed everything out. Someone has probably found something that's a problem. So a good example of this in my history would be Dragon Ball FighterZ Season 1. The last type is, as a competitor, not my favorite, but as a spectator, a really interesting one, and is what I talked about at the beginning. The game or patch comes out in like June, which is basically like the limit for the game to actually be in Evo. I've never seen any fighting game come out in like July, and then, oh, it's at Evo in August. Usually the latest it can be out is like early June, and you have about 2 months to get ready. So there's a couple of interesting things about this type of Evo. One, the play level is really low, so it's a race to find something that's quick, easy, and super bullshit. And 2, if you find something that's really good, you hide that shit, because you only have to hide it for 2 months, and then you use it. So in my case, I was grinding really hard to just try to find as many little tricks as possible. I love tricky little mix-ups, like one-off mix-ups with Milia, but probably the thing that helped me out the most throughout the run was rediscovering the Milia close / option select, which you might have heard me talk about in various videos, or if you watch my stream, on stream. So what is this? So this is actually a technique I came up with in Exerd, and it is important for fighting bursts and YRC. So for example, I have Kai here, good old Kyle. He's going to do a jab, just a jab. So because of how fast his jab is, if I YRC, he will block my YRC and proceed to absolutely murder me. Maybe something like this is a realistic starter in this case. Now that's all well and good, but what if you want to use something that's a little bit more advantageous? So this move does not recover fast enough, so if you YRC it, I can take my turn. Kyle here has a 1-hit close slash, where Milia's is 2 hits. So there are definitely downsides to it being 2 hits, but there are definitely upsides. And probably the biggest upside, again, is this technique. So the idea is during the hit stop of the second hit, you input jump and then something else. Usually like blocking plus a button, so that if they block, you get close slash 2 hits into whatever. If the second of your close slash doesn't connect, whatever you input will come out. And because you're inputting jump, you're usually going to be jumping and blocking, and ideally doing faultless defense. So for example, here we have a pretty standard Milia block string, right? Close slash 2S 5H, we've seen this a million times, right? Usually, maybe she would delay in a normal case, but we're not going to do it here, mostly because of what we're doing. But in the case that I decide to YRC, boop, I just jump and block immediately, and you're able to get a punish. Here's another thing you've probably seen a cajillion million players do before: 2K2D, same side weight into an air combo. Now here, because you're not actually doing a Gatling out of the close slash, you're jump canceling, you don't have to do the extra inputs. You might have seen me do faultless defense on the previous one. This is probably like the most common one, and just, even though it looks the same here, if I burst to close slash first hit from being like, oh snap, I will immediately jump and block, and that is absolute doom. Milia really wants your burst. It is really valuable for a character like her that her best offense comes from her hitting you to take your burst like that, and this is like a really easy way to kind of enable this. And frankly, this technique took me really far in Exert, and it took me really far in this game too. So a lot of times I would do it, people would burst right away to get out of the mix, I would jump and block, I would look like a genius, and I would run my set play till death, and ran that run straight to 4th place in Evo 2021. Did I say 4 or 3 at the beginning? I'm doing 3. I'm doing 3 because Strife should be last. So those are some examples of stuff I've saved for nationals. Shit, I saved for nationals, as they used to say. Again, I think it's important in fighting games to share information so everybody grows, but we're also, you know, we're showing off our version of the character. So especially for like really big tournaments, I'm usually the type that like I try to save like 1 or 2 tricks for like really big tournaments and then share them after to see what people end up doing with them. But let me know what you guys think. As usual, if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Like and subscribe if you guys feel like it. By the time this video drops, I would have already tweeted about this already, but registrations for my Who Are My Strongest Squires tournament should be going on when this video goes live, so I'll have a link to that in the comment section pinned. And I also am reopening my Patreon, and on there I'm having like a lot of free stuff from over time that have been lost. So things like old SRK articles, notes that like are just like hidden in Discords basically. I'm trying to have all that stuff there, as well as the paid stuff would be like viewer request videos. So if you've ever been like have like a kind of specific question that doesn't really fit like here, that stuff will go there. So there'll be more details there, and I'm gonna start like advertising that a little bit more. So if that interests you, then by all means go check that out. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time. Peace out.